Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today it's time for the Week 6 power rankings of the 2023 USFL season. This past week ended up having a couple really huge upsets, which have made it again really hard for the power rankings. I wouldn't say it's as hard as it was a couple weeks ago, but it was pretty tough mainly at the top 5-ish, as I've seen a lot of people online have different opinions, but we'll see. I hate to say it, but coming in number 8 is Michigan Panthers. I was so happy they won the first two games. It looked like we're going to have a great season, and now we're bad. And I'm only going to show one thing. The issue is this stupid quarterback system Mike Nolan's doing. Look, I believe a lot of the stuff Nolan has done is great. The fact is that we have had three separate defensive player of the week winners out of the 5 weeks of the season. Breland Speaks and Frank Gino, you can make a very good case, are the two best defenders in the entire league. I'm not even joking. But the offense has basically sputtered because we have this weird decision to not commit to one quarterback but not do a dual QB system. What it ends up being is, oh, this guy plays bad, let's throw in the other quarterback. Oh, he ended up playing bad, let's just throw the other one in instead of letting one of them have a full game. Carson Strong ended up finally playing more snaps. He had a terrible game. Love didn't really have that good a game either. Neither one of them had to hit 100 yards, despite the fact that Strong threw 20 passes. The fact is that they need to just commit to one guy being the starter. I honestly was really hoping they'd let Strong have a full game. They didn't. So I guess it's time for Eric Berry to actually come in. I never was high on him, but at this point, I mean, what else are you going to do? This team is very, very obviously flawed at the QB position. It's hurting Reggie Corbin and Stevie Scott's production. Big issue. Now, coming in number 7, moving up in the world by one spot is the Philadelphia Stars. I'm going to talk about this a lot more when we get to the Generals, but the fact is that this was not a game the Stars won. This is a game that was handed to them. 3 fumbles lost and an interception from the Generals offense. That's why they won. Their offense, the Stars offense, did nothing. I just did a whole video on it yesterday. You can click top right to watch it. Luis Aguilar had the greatest game kickers ever had in football history, and that's what it took for this team to win. He went 8 for 8 in field goals, which had 3 50-yarders with a walk-off 55-yarder and a long of 56. Essentially what happened, the Generals fumble the ball, the Stars get the ball, the Stars maybe get 5 yards, or they lose 5 yards, and then they kick a field goal. Or they have a really good kick return and then turn that into a field goal. There was like maybe 2 instances where the offense actually did anything. The fact is the Stars' offense is still terrible, and I think this is more of an indictment to just how bad their offense and how good the Generals' defense was to anything else. They move up only because of the fact that the Panthers are now on a 3-game losing streak. But don't let it get it twisted. The Stars are really bad too. Those are the 2 worst teams in the league right now. Stars' issues, I think, are a lot harder to fix with the Panthers. It's just right now the Panthers are worse, though they're much easier to fix than the Stars. So that's just my thought on that. Now, coming in at number 6, the Showboats. Showboats are number 6 now. They beat the best team in the league. Now, I think this comes to the fact that this is like I said all year with the Breakers. They're going to have at least one game where their defense steps up and one game where their offense slips up. Both ended up happening today. The Showboats basically did like the same kind of style that the Breakers did, which is, using short passes to get a huge, time loss. They ended up winning the time possession battle by a solid amount due to mainly the fact they used their short passing attack. As you can see in all the overall team stats, they were pretty equal. 2 to 3 turnovers. They still won the turnover battle, but it was pretty close. And then offensive stats. Neither team had that many drives. They both had nearly the same amount of total plays, total yards per play. It's just that the Breakers ended up making too many mistakes in the second quarter, which really hurt them in the end. And the Showboats were able to just barely do enough, despite the Breakers' defense actually putting up a good performance for once. Not much to be said. Congrats to the Showboats for, finally winning another game. Hopefully getting some people to go back to Memphis now. We'll see. Now, coming at number 5, again, the only team that stayed put, Pittsburgh Maulers. I couldn't move them up. Look, I think a lot of people are really overreacting about this. I've seen some people put the Maulers like as high as like 3 or 4. No. They're still 5. They're a solid team that are very obviously challenged on offense, but that offensive challenge seems to have gone away. Troy Williams has done a fantastic job finally as, a legit quarterback. Despite throwing an interception, he still had a 120 quarterback rating because he went 15 to 16 on completions for 78.9%, which is insane. He nearly had 10 yards per attempt, and he had 2 TDs. And running the ball, he had a TD, and he averaged 59 yards, and his long was 13, so it's not like, he had one random 50-yarder and then had a couple 1-yarders. Solid. The issue with me putting them any higher is the fact that they're so hot and cold without being, distinctively getting better. I don't know. look, they won the turnover battle 2-1. There was 4-2 turnovers total, so that helped them a lot. Like I said, the quarterback issues of the Panthers. The fact is, the Maulers are currently leading the turnover battle by a wide margin at 5. They're very safe with the ball, and even when they're unsafe, they usually get turnovers, which has been a huge help. But their third down percentage is horrific. That is one of the most important stats a team can have, and the fact that they are still last with 26.3 is horrific. It's a truly terrible number, especially when you look at their points allowed being the best in the league, but their yards per game being the worst in the league. And you can see a lot of this in their points scored and point differential. They're the worst in points scored only by 1, but point differential, they're nearly dead even. They're only 4 away from being perfect, which isn't that surprising when you realize this team has both been a really solid defense but a pretty bad offense, but has had, this final week where it actually looks like they're getting on track. So number 5 for them is where they're going to go. I know some people might want them to go higher, but to me, I can't really see the argument for it. Sticking at number 5. Now, coming in at number 4 is going to be one that some people might say is a bit questionable, the Stallions. It's questionable because some people seem to think that this game, if anything, was a good thing for them, or that it wasn't that bad. Because, you say, well, they're still number 1 in points scored and point differential. They're plus 40 in point differential. They're 2 points out of the Gamblers in points scored. But then you remember that, like 42 of those points are from a blowout against the Showboats and 40 points in the point differential by the Showboats. Essentially, well, yes, you can say, hey, their record says they're really solid at the moment. It's really helped by the fact they had one huge blowout win, so I wouldn't really say that. The fact is that against the Gamblers, yes, there was some questionable reffing at the end, but at the end of the day, the refs were not the reason the Stallions lost this game. If you say that, I'm sorry. I like to, say you have an opinion. You're just wrong. The fact is that you can't miss a field goal and then turn the ball over and then expect nothing bad to happen, okay? Near the end of the fourth quarter, in the beginning of the fourth quarter, I'd say, the Gamblers ended up getting the lead from a touchdown. Then they missed a field goal, which allowed the Gamblers to go get a much easier touchdown than it would have been otherwise. And then the Stallions got the ball, they turned it over, and then the Gamblers scored in the next play. And that was the end. The Stallions had their chance to win at the end, and they just didn't do it. And I think a big reason is that we're still seeing Alex Magoo not play as good as he was. Now, running the ball, he did fantastic. He had, over 12 yards average on 6 carries with a longer 27. CJ Marable had a solid game running as well. But Magoo passing just wasn't as good as you need him to be. This is a solid game. I'm not going to say it's not. He had nearly 100 quarterback rating. But you're 5.6 yards per attempt. If you're not playing with the idea like the Breakers of we're going to milk time by passing, that's not a good stat. Especially when you throw the ball 37 times and you don't even hit 250. That's bad. Essentially, it's not like the Stallions were horrific. I would say the contrary. They did a solid showing. But when you also remember that this is a Gamblers team that is for the most part pretty healthy, except, their starting quarterback didn't play, and their backup got hurt during the game and ended up, coming in but being out for a bit, you realize that the Stallions really should have easily won this game. You can say ref ball all you want. Look, refs aren't going to change a 20-point outcome, and the Stallions, honestly, you could make a good case should have. They allowed 20 points in the fourth quarter alone. You can't do that. I'm sorry, all you Stallions fans, but the Stallions, you move down a spot because it's just, I still stand by what I said earlier, that the Generals are better than you. Like I said, this is the definition of a fluky loss. Look, they've had a lot more fumble issues than they did last year. I'm not going to say they don't. The fact is, Darius Victor fumbled the ball 3 times. If he doesn't, they win this game by like 20. That's not like, an opinion. I think everyone who watched the game knows that. I think that they finally have a dual system that they should continue doing. I know it says like 0 of 12, that's just an error on Loletta's part. He actually threw a lot better than that. It's like 9 for 12, or it was like something like that, 10 to 12. The fact is that should be their dual QB system. Loletta and Johnson should be it. If Riley does this, I think this can work. The fact is that DeAndre Johnson had a solid game running, like usual. Trey Williams had a solid game running, like usual. Victor running did. It's just he fumbled the ball. See what I mean? It's only the fumbles that hurt, because I think this game really shows that they have the best defense in the league, not the Maulers, because you did 4 turnovers, yet you allowed 0 touchdowns. Yes, the Stars' offense is pitiful, but when you give them so many turnovers and so many chances to score on great field position sometimes, you should be able to capitalize on that if you're the Stars. They couldn't. The Generals' defense did enough. The defense did enough to win the game. And in fact, the offense did enough to nearly get them to OT. It's just they allowed way too long of a kick return, which ended up giving the Stars a really easy way to get to field goal range and kick the game-winning field goal. I don't really have this against the Generals. The fact is, when you look at it, the Generals, they still have a positive point differential despite a losing record of +9. Their point scored is 96, which is in the middle. That's how they win games. They don't need to score a ton of points. It's just that you can't fumble the ball 4 times. I still say that right now, they are the better team than the Stallions. I don't honestly, even to me, think it's a question. I think that's very obvious that they are a better team than the Stallions. It's just that this was the day where you had one guy just have butterfingers. Victor doesn't fumble those balls. They obliterate the Stars. That's my take on it. Coming in at number 2 is going to be the New Orleans Breakers. Yeah, I know people are going to say this is questionable, but I have them at 2. Now, why am I only showing the score of the game? Like I talked about earlier, this was not a game that was a fluky one. This was not a you fumbled the ball 4 times, Matt Conklin played terrible. This was not one of those games. You were basically even with the Showboats the whole game in every stat line, yet you lost. You lost to the worst team in the league heading into this week. You cannot go unpunished, especially when you look at it and say that the 1 week your defense does good, which they didn't even do awesome, they just did good, was the one day your offense just disappeared. Look, all those turnovers happened in like the second quarter. So you had 3 other quarters with literally no real issues that you didn't do anything in. The fact is that the Breakers should have easily won this game. You have arguably the best quarterback, best receiver, who's a tight end, best running back, and best kicker in the league. And now all 4 of those are up for question, except probably McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who's probably going to still be viewed as the best quarterback like he should because he's been insane. And even this game, he wasn't even that bad. He just threw the interception. That's against the point. The point is you were supposed to easily win this game. The Showboats defense is not, the Legion of Boom. Okay, it's not the 2000 Ravens. It's not even like that good. It's a defense. It's not the Maulers. It's not the Generals. You cannot only put 10 points up on that defense. You cannot. That is a huge red flag that this offense can be that anemic. I expected them to have an off day. I've been saying that. But not this off. This is horrific type of off day. So, look, what am I supposed to do? Keep them at 1 because they lost to the worst team in the league, but say, oh, but they beat the team that's at 1 like 2 weeks ago, back when that team didn't have their, best player on their team. Is that really fair? No. The Breakers at number 2, and they deserve to be number 2. They do not deserve to be moved up and rewarded for that awful performance they had. Okay? And because number 1 is the Houston Gamblers. Look, you can say it's controversial because, they're not the number 1 team in points scored point differential. They're like second and third. And they're not even really close to, the top in point differential, but I'm putting them at 1. Look, you went to the Stallions in a basic must-win game. You lose this game, you get another full game behind the Stallions, and the Stallions gain tiebreaker over you. This is a must-win game for either team. And you beat them. You beat the Stallions. Yes, was there some ref ball at the end? Sure. But at the end of the day, you put up 20 points in the fourth quarter, the most important quarter there is, and you got the win. You got that win without your starting quarterback, Kenji Bahar, who got ruled out of play like a day before the game happened. So now you have Terry Wilson be a quarterback until he got hurt, and I think his Montreal Kozar came in, and he was terrible. He went 33% in his 6 passes for 15 yards and 42 quarterback rating. Wilson came back in, and then you won because of Mark Thompson again. 78 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. This was probably his worst game back. Think about that. That's like a lot of running backs' great day. This was like his worst day. Here's the reason I have the Gamblers at 1. The 2 stats that they are bad at are points allowed and turnovers. That points allowed per game is 25.8 now. The last 2 weeks have been better than that. So naturally, that means that has gone down in the last 2 weeks. So from 3 weeks ago, it is, I guess down is the best way to put it, by a substantial amount. The Gamblers' defense has been playing better than it was. The offensive -4 turnover differential is because of how bad they were the first couple weeks. Now, however, they had another game where they didn't turn the ball over. So what does that mean? That means that their biggest weakness of turnovers is getting better. So while they're still 8th in those, it's because of the injuries they inflicted upon themselves in the early couple weeks, not because of where they stand now. But what they did start well, that they're still doing well, they're number 2 in yards per game at 326.6, and they're number one at an insane 54.5% on third down. Look, I mean, you're winning like the most important stat, which is third down percentage, staying on the field. Your offense is still putting up huge yards. Ever since Mark Thompson has been back, he's been insane. If they rematch the Breakers right now, Gamblers win. I really do think that. So, because of that, I have them at one. I think they deserve number one. They're a great team, and they showed it. They did it without their starting quarterback. They're it. So, that'll do it for this week. If you like this video and you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We do at least 3 videos a week during the season. This week is a bit different. We're going to have 6 videos this week. We already had one yesterday that I mentioned earlier, and we're going to have like 4 more come out. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, and as always, have a great night.